am Reverend Dr. Sherry Palace, and thank you for coming to Fireside Creators. This week's show is on following your bliss, and we've got an amazing panel. I am looking forward to all of your questions and comments. If you are on YouTube, make sure to hit that like and subscribe. If you're on Facebook, grant StreamYard access so we can see your name when you comment or question, although it's really 50-50 if I'll see it or not. Please remember to keep all comments and questions related to the show topic and that this is a safe space. I want to give a shout out to our top sponsors, Ruth, Kirsten, Michelle, Ray, and Heidi. Thank you so much for your support and thank you for welcoming us into your homes and joining this conversation. I appreciate you. On a little side note, this year I am working with the Wild Goose Festival. And let's see, we'll be in North Carolina, July 13th through the 16th. We are doing a live show there. If you want to go or plan on attending, I have a $50 discount code for you. Simply use my name, make sure you spell it right, and you'll get $50 off. You can find out more at thewildgoosefestival.org, and I would love to see you there. Okay. Now let's meet our guests. Amey Aubry is an acupuncturist, energy medicine practitioner, and holistic health mentor. She has a Bachelor's of Science in Environmental Biology, a Master's of Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine, and a Doctorate of Pharmacy. Should have talked about this, Amey. That and medical ethnobotany. She is passionate about helping people to release energetic blockages and to learn tools and techniques that help them to experience the fullness of who they are. Amey wrote Moments Along the Way and is a mom of 2 amazing daughters and lives on a hobby farm in Arizona with 3 dogs, 2 hedgehogs, 6 chickens, 2 goats, and a baby desert tortoise. Welcome, Amey.
Hello.
How are you?
Quite a mouthful, maybe a little bit too long of a bio. I'm doing well. How are you?
I should have prepped before. Sorry.
No worries. That word gets everybody.
Okay, good. I don't
know what was the comment that I got the most.
Awesome. Well, I'm so glad you're here. Next, we have Beth Freeman. Beth spent nearly 20 years in marketing, followed by 10 years in education. During her time teaching high school and with the help of a dedicated energy therapist, she embraced her own personal healing. Today, her mission is helping others find inner peace and their soul's purpose in life. She's a soul's purpose channeler and serving others by communicating with their personal spirit guide and angels. Beth offered Daylight for the Soul, Forgiveness for the Soul, The 5 Steps of Forgiveness, and the children's book, The Itty Bitty Calico Kitty. She is also the co-creator of the Peace and Purpose podcast. Welcome back, Beth.
Well, hey, good to see you.
So glad you're here.
Thank you. Me too.
And we have Meredith Richardson. Meredith provides coaching and hypnotherapy to people throughout the world, offering life-altering transformation to her clients in as little as 1 hypnotherapy session. A former mediator, Meredith has helped over 1,500 people to navigate conflict successfully. She was published in Newsweek and featured in the Authority magazine, Thrive Global, and the Story Exchange, Change Your Story, Change Your Life. Meredith Richardson. Welcome, Meredith.
Hi, thank you so much. I think that I have succeeded in having us stream into my Facebook group too.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, hello, everybody.
Bring some people in and we'll find out if they're from my group or not. But in theory, we are currently streaming there.
Okay. Fantastic. So everybody watching us on Facebook or YouTube, welcome. Put your comments in the questions, and we look forward to them. So to start it off the top, what exactly does following your bliss mean to you? Amey, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. For me, it's really just that inner voice, doing things that you're passionate about that really light you up, and paying attention to those things. I think a lot of times we get very stuck in sort of day-to-day living, and we have our to-do list and the things and people that we have commitments to, and we push aside the things that spark our joy and bring the light to us personally. And I really think, honoring that and making that a big part of your life in whatever way you can, for me, that's a big part of following your bliss.
So I guess you would have to discover what that bliss is first.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's different for everybody.
I didn't discover it till 40. I mean, I had all kinds of big dreams, and now I go, yeah, those wouldn't have worked. But when I discovered what I thought was my bliss, I cried for a solid 24 hours, and I have been chasing it ever since.
Yeah. But I think that there can be kind of like the big bliss or maybe purpose bliss, but also the little things, right? Like actually stopping and watching the sunset, or, stepping outside in a really stressful moment and like taking in a scene that kind of helps ease your system. So those tiny moments too, I think, can be just as beneficial and powerful as kind of following a purpose or something like that.
Maybe even more so, because those little minutes will get you through to the big ones.
Yeah, totally.
I'm so glad you went there, Amey, because I was actually going to follow up on what you had said, because you had started with the big. And what I find with people is that sometimes they're so focused on just getting through the day that they have no concept of what it is, right? To find their bliss or to follow their bliss. So that when I just am like, okay, so I just want you to do something that brings you joy every day. They look at me like, that is a crazy thing to ask. Right? How am I supposed to find something that brings me joy every day? You don't know what my day is. I'm like, yes, but I do know that there is joy that is possible in every day.
Yeah.
Right. And so it is that tuning in, just that start of tuning into yourself, right? Because you've been ignoring yourself for so long, you've been ignoring your needs for so long, that when you start with that, just find one thing that brings you joy every day, right?
Yeah.
You can then grow that. And I really like too, Sherry, what you said in terms of it not being until you were 40, because I think that for us as women at midlife, our brains change, and they were able to see like all the interconnectedness of the world that we couldn't see before. And it's also a time when our role in the world is shifting. So like the influence that our parents had on us when we were choosing what we're going to do is no longer, right? So instead of it being you studied the courses in high school that your parents wanted you to take, and you went to college, or you didn't go to college based on what your parents wanted, and you studied what your parents wanted, and you did a lot to please your parents, especially if you're a hardcore people pleaser like me and you were like raised to be an achiever, right? So you may not really tap into who you are. You may not have the ability to say, I'm not doing this anymore. Until you get to that age and you can just, you've either been able to break away from it enough, you've been able, I sometimes think of like myself and my siblings as trees, right? And so like we all have a limb, but every time like I've chosen to go right, they've gone left or something. And so you get farther and farther, right? So by the time you're at 40, you're like this, and your lives look very different, even though you all started in the same home with, at least 50% of the same DNA, right? But you grow into you. So when you're 40, I see people who, like, if you have a midlife crisis, I really think the midlife crisis is a calling. It's that you're not in that space that you're meant to be in.
Like that.
Yeah.
And so then you shake things up so that you are able to follow your bliss.
Well, and doesn't Joseph Campbell say that there has to be some type of awakening to be called in that? For me, it was up until 40, I was just surviving. I was a single mother. And at 40, my son had gone off to the Navy. And so things were, starting to come into, okay, what am I going to do with the rest of my life now? Beth, what about you?
As Amy was talking, I was nodding my head and I was thinking, following my bliss is following my truth and discovering what that truth is. And you were talking about that. And then it's about the age that I started working on my own personal healing, which did lead me to, and definitely different, branches in the tree. But I had this thought, for me, it was 40, really, truly, it really was 40. But for my son, my gosh, he was 19. So I feel like, and I have some younger clients, I feel like for some of us, generationally, there are differences in even what we feel like we're allowed to do. So I agree with you, Meredith, growing up with parents that it was very much like you're going to, I asked my mom, when can I have a baby? When I was 4th grade, she goes, well, first you're going to go to college. Then you're going to have a career. Then you're going to fall in love. Then you're going to get married. She added more in. And then you're going to buy a house. And then you're going to have a baby. That's exactly what I did in that order. So thank you, Mom, for part of it, because I'm really glad because I was able to go out into the world before I had a child. But coming back to following your bliss, it was, okay, well, what do I want, right? And what both Amy and, Meredith were talking, and Sherry, what is it I want? What is this? And who am I following, right? So if we're following our bliss, are we following our heart? Like you said, Amy, are we following that voice inside of us? Are we still following the voice of others? Are we following the voice of society, etc.? And so it really is a personal journey. But I did want to interject that I'm seeing in younger people, they're going, hey, I'm going to do it now.
Nice.
I'm not going to wait till, I'm going this way.
I fully agree with that. I don't know if it's just like you're saying, a generational difference, or, there's just differences in the space-time continuum. But like my kids, they're so different than how I was as a kid. Like as a kid, if somebody told me, okay, you need to go over there now and do this, I was like, okay, I didn't even question it.
Yeah.
And my kids look at me like they want like a full report of why and like 100 reasons I haven't, like, it just boggles my mind that they can even, like for me, it was like, oh, an authority person told me to do this. Okay, I will do this.
I'll do it, right.
And they just seem much more natural at kind of listening to their own voice, which I think is really cool. But as a parent, it's a bit of a challenge.
I think that generational switch is in us. Because as you were saying that, I heard my parents and grandparents' children are meant to be seen and not heard.
Right.
Why do you keep asking why?
Yeah, and we don't do that.
Yeah, I mean, and we were shut down as kids, and now because we were shut down, we're saying, okay, let's hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
And empowering them, because we shouldn't have been shut down.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been an interesting struggle as a parent, because like I was raised just like that, and nobody was doing anything intentionally. It was just how you parented. And then I would hear things coming out of my mouth to my kids, and I would be like, wait, I don't actually believe that.
Yeah.
How can I shift so that I can let them kind of more naturally learn to follow their own bliss?
Yeah, and one of the things I wanted to bring up was I have a real problem with Joseph. I love Joseph Campbell, love him. But he said that the women do not have a hero's journey, because we are supposed to, basically we've already reached it. Mm-hmm. Children are our future. We are supposed to stay there and lift up men. And I strongly disagree with that. And I think that also lends to the tone of how we have parented. Because our generation before us, that was their thing. They were parents and staying home and doing those. But now with feminism, with women working more, the 2-parent household becoming more of an exception than the rule. What do you think about the heroine's journey as opposed to the hero's journey in following your bliss? Anybody?
I mean, I think it's to say that only men have a hero's journey is, I think, just a little bit lack of perspective, because
Patriarchal.
yeah, I mean, probably just from his perspective, right? He was of the generation where women mostly raised kids, but I think even in those generations, women were always having hero's journeys. I think it's kind of the nature of life. You start out and you're surrounded by the people influencing you, so you're taking on their beliefs and all the constructs around you, and then you go out and do something, whether it's get married and have kids or go to school or travel, and then your world expands, and so there's more contrasting experiences, which causes you to kind of shift perspective, change, come up with new ideas and things like that. So I think really the nature of life is a hero's journey, no matter what your career or role or anything like that. I think in our own way, we're all kind of going about our individual hero's journey.
I agree with that strongly, that we all have our hero's journey. I would not simply label his opinion as patriarchal. I mean, yes, I think it's sexist, but I also think it's very classist. I mean, the reality is that there are plenty of women who have to work outside the home or work to even just make it possible to have a home every single day, right? So it is actually a very elite group that has been able to stay home and take care of children. And then there's also the fact that some women are terrible with children. I used to be a guardian ad protecting the best interest of children. I would not encourage some people to have children, right? So there's that piece too. So if we're looking at it from the perspective of, well, and I'm going to add, what are we saying a hero is or a heroine is? There are people who face terrible circumstances from a very young age. And if you are not willing to say that that person is a hero or a heroine, like if we look at the Ukrainians being bombed and those who stay and those who deal with every single day, right? The women don't count as heroes, even though they're being bombed, because they're women and their purpose is to raise children. Or the girls don't count as heroes that are there because they haven't even gotten to that age yet. But a boy can already be a hero who's there because he's there and he's being bombed and he's male, right? I mean, so we're all on our journey, as Amey said.
Right.
And to think otherwise, that just discounts a large portion of the world.
Well, it discounts everyone, really, in a sense, because, just for a moment, take the word hero out, the journey. Okay? Because hero, labeling, like you said, Meredith, labeling somebody a hero or heroine, that's individual judgment. Take the word hero out for a moment, the journey. And bringing it into our topic tonight, following your bliss. Okay. So if you take hero out and you take, just even following, journey your bliss, journey to bliss. And that journey to bliss, I don't know about, for a lot of us, it's a very painful journey.
Oh, yeah.
And then if you bring back the original hero's journey, and I could go into, I used to teach the Odyssey when I taught high school, so I could go all into the hero's journey with that. Reality is we all, even if our lives are similar, talking about Ukraine, one woman in one area versus another in another, and just even that, we can have similar experiences, yet our journey through those experiences are different. Therefore, the way that we find and follow our bliss, our truth, our who we are becomes unique to us. Right. And so while I'm in complete agreement that, I think women, it's very different. I do agree it's also classist and, there's many different pieces to it. If I just remove it and I look at the journey to bliss, you know, because you're going to
Yeah, I
follow
like that.
there's a journey to it,
Mhm.
right? And we already stepped into that journey when we stepped into life, right? And I believe, I don't remember who said it at the beginning, you know, that essentially that's, I think, Amey, you may have, or Meredith, both of you did, you know, this is a journey to bliss. This is, how do you find that journey? And Meredith, you said something earlier about joy. And Sherry, if you remember when we did that panel on joy, and I don't want to go off on a tangent, I just want to make this point. I didn't know what joy was.
Yeah.
Real joy, without it being kind of along a melancholy river, until I was 50, really. You know, and I didn't know how to choose joy until I was 55. So, you know, it's this. So when we look at the word bliss too, you know, what does bliss mean to you? You know, your bliss. And I was thinking about Amey with your goats and your chickens and all of that. And I have a friend north of town that has the same thing. Okay, I like a very clean house, and I like everything neat, and I'm okay with a cat, and I've had a dog, and that's about it. You know, I don't want.
Yeah, wouldn't
My
be your
bliss
bliss.
is a clean house. Okay, I'm just saying. That's my
Dirt
bliss.
everywhere.
Yeah, and that's my bliss, right? So I
Mhm.
think, you know, we can go off into, you know, to looking at it like this, but when we just bring it in, what lights you up? You know, what lights you up?
Well, and I don't think that a lot of people, like we said in the beginning, even ask themselves that question.
Right.
I was
Right.
just talking to a girlfriend of mine who her whole life was to have children. And now her children are growing up and moving on. And I said to her, well, what's going to make you happy? And she said, I haven't even considered that. And she's in her mid 50s too. And it's like wondering. And I said, we're too fucking old for this. Find your happiness.
Well, I think actually that brings up a really good point, which I kind of came up after I finished the last thought, was I don't think a hero's journey has to be once in a lifetime. And I think we tend to, you know, focus on that. Like, okay, you know, it's like a story arc. I've done my, you know, hard part. Now I'm on the other side. Now it's just sort of the happily ever after, right? Like we saw in all the Disney films.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's true. I think we have multiple journeys throughout our lives, and it's going to change at different phases. And you know, for me now, as I've sort of come into that realization, like I'm excited about getting older. I'm excited about, like, my kids right now are 11 and 8. And this phase is awesome and I love it. But I'm also really excited for, like, I know this sounds weird, but I'm excited for them to be teenagers. I'm excited for them to leave. Like, I just feel like each stage is going to have those kind of moments of, like, oh, this is hard. Oh, now I've sort of got it. Now it's easier. But it's going to lead to new and more of those types of cycles. So I kind of think the more that we can see it as this continuous cyclical pattern throughout our lives, we can actually tune in a bit more to the joy and the bliss, because it's not like, oh, okay, once I'm over that hill, I'm fine. Like, I don't have to worry about anything hard. So I think it's going to be a constant up and down.
Yeah.
And so how do you along that way, you know, figure out how to enjoy even the hard stuff? You know, it's kind of this game that you can play in a way, because none of it lasts forever. So rather than kind of getting stuck in a mindset of, well, you know, I just have to get through it, and then once I'm on the other side, I'll be fine. How can you be finer now? Like, is it possible,
like that,
with whatever you're going through now, to find those joyful, blissful moments?
And those moments can just be moments of acceptance.
Totally.
To your point, just acceptance of where I am. This is where I am.
Well, in the last 5 years, 6 years now, have been hell for me. Absolute hell. And in hindsight, my only regret was the stress, the tears, the immobility from being paralyzed with fear. if I could go back and change anything, it would be to take that moment and have a moment of bliss, to find something. I can see it now. I can see all the bliss in my history. I didn't see it then. I can go, oh my God, this worked out. This worked out. This is why this happened.
Yeah.
Right.
In the moment,
Yeah.
I was on
Yeah.
the floor.
It's hard. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I
hard.
mean, those are the most challenging.
They are. And those
for
moments,
sure.
right. And some of those moments, and just to kind of speak to the audience, we're not saying that you can find it necessarily in some of those most challenging moments. It's what you just said, Sherry. You realize it after the fact, and you can sit with that. That's part of that following you sit with that bliss, looking in hindsight, like, okay, now I can see, it comes together. The puzzle pieces fit. I see this, I can now see it. So yeah, sometimes right in the middle of it, it's difficult, and that's okay. That's okay. That's what I would call a healing journey, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're in the midst of that as well. So
Meredith, you look like you want to say something.
Yeah.
Everybody has said so many wonderful things, and I was sitting here opening my mouth and like a little bit like a baby bird when I think about it. So, but no, Amey, you went right there, because I had been thinking about that piece of it, that we want it to be a destination, right? We want it to be, and they lived happily ever after, the end. But there's a reason they say the end right after, and they lived happily ever after, because that is the biggest part of the fairy tale, that there's a happily ever after, that you reach this destination point, and it's all smooth sailing from there, and nothing bad is ever going to happen to you again in the entire world. And it's like
Disney.
Right? And so it is honoring the fact that we are on a journey, right? We're on a journey until we die. This is a whole journey. And so you can have a destination point that is happy, and you revel in that happiness, because you can also have a destination point that is misery. And it is accepting that misery, right? That when we're talking about finding your bliss and finding the joy, yes, if you can find the joy on a day, like, look for it at any point during the day. And some days you won't be able to, and that's okay, because you get to feel all your feelings, even the yucky ones, right? If you don't feel them and you don't release them, just stuff them, and you have to deal with them later, right? You'll deal with them in terms of health problems. You'll deal with them in terms of ailments. But there's also the piece, Sherry, when you're talking about looking back and seeing those points, we tell ourselves stories about how our life is. How did our life turn out? What happened? What worked? What didn't work, right? And the people that get stuck, they never can change the story from my life sucks, right? So they get stuck in, this bad thing happened to me, and so my life is forever bad. Or I feel bad today, so I will forever feel bad, right? And so if you can change the story to, I feel bad today. I do. And I might not be able to find anything good about today. And today might just be epically bad. But tomorrow might be better. Right? Or maybe the next day is going to be better. And then maybe I'll be able to make sense of what happened, even if I don't like what happened at all.
It's always my biggest hope. If I can make sense of it somehow, I am that why person. So, if I can make sense of it, I can bring it to peace. If I can't, I have a harder time forgiving and bringing peace. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and every one of us have brought it up, is Disney. So follow your bliss to Cinderella was the prince, right? But now they have, in fact, I have a whole list here of where Disney has turned around and made them heroines. Pixar's Brave. Where's the other one? Avatar. and I'm not finding the other one, but
Mulan.
Disney, Mulan, changing the narrative from a prince is going to come rescue us to a woman being a heroine. Do you think that that's perpetuating this, and do you think it's emboldening women to do so? I mean, this show just isn't on women, but we have an all-women panel, so I want to take advantage of it.
Well, I know that, I have clients that, were read that story as a child and struggle with the fact they haven't found that person, and they've been, had, bad relationship after bad relationship. So does that come from those stories? Well, it comes from somewhere, right? We don't just, we're not born with the idea that we have to find our Prince Charming.
Yeah.
So it is a story, right? And so, yes, is it influential? Absolutely. Can other influences counteract that? Yeah. The example I gave about my mom, it wasn't about getting married. It was about having a career first. She was a career woman. She was born in, 1934. So, so I really do feel like it, yes, Disney, and I'm going to put this caveat in. I grew up in Florida. I'm a Disney lover. So in my heart, I just can't go completely anti-Disney. Even when it comes, because following my bliss sometimes is going to Disney World. So that's what it is. Sometimes that's what it is.
The religion of the rat.
Yeah, I'll let others, but I do believe it's one of the stories, right? It's one of the stories we're told, and it depends on how is that perpetuated in the other stories in your life.
Well, and my point is that up until recently, that we were told as women that our bliss would be, like Campbell said, husband, family, kids, white picket fence.
Right.
That was never going to be my bliss. And that was hard for me, especially coming from an evangelical background where I was told that was my only option because that's what God wanted. So to find and ask myself,
it's heavy.
Where is that bliss?
Mm-hmm.
Was a question that never even occurred to me.
I would say that's a heavier story to me, energetically, emotionally, spiritually, in all ways, that God wants me to do that versus Disney, quite frankly, versus Prince Charming. I really think that and I didn't
hand in hand.
Yeah, that's heavy. It is. That's big.
But I do think that it can be some women's bliss, and I don't think that to say, having kids is not enough of an experience.
No, I'm not saying that. Yeah.
For me, I always knew that I wanted kids, so that was part of my blissful life experience, and I knew it wasn't the only thing I wanted to do, but it was a big part of it. And so if I had only had kids and not followed the other sort of pings and things that were really drawing me, then I don't think I would feel, be able to feel as blissful or joyful as I do today, but, vice versa. Because it took a while for me to find the right person and to do that. I was in my 30s before I had kids. And so if I would have just said, oh, well, it's not happening, I'll just give up and do other things that I enjoy, so it is, I think, it's not an all or nothing, choice. There's not just one thing that is the thing for everybody. Maybe there is for some people, but I do think it is such an individualized experience. So, to judge somebody else's choice, like maybe they're having a completely amazing experience with what they're doing, which doesn't feel fulfilling to you, but is fulfilling to them.
Right.
Well, and I don't think you can find bliss in judgment ever.
No.
You have to follow your bliss.
Yeah, totally.
I agree.
Okay, so I want to bring up again what this is from Maureen Murdoch, and she says that this is the heroine's journey.
Okay.
And it ties into family, of course, because one of the things Joseph Campbell said was that the reason the women can't go on a hero's journey is because we've already there. everybody wants to be us. Everybody wants to be, what we've already achieved. And speaking from someone who has been looking to achieve things, I go, yeah, that's wishful thinking too. But, I've had this journey. I have learned. One of the things that I really liked about this was the separation and then integration of the masculine and the feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And honoring those again, to say this is a whole of who I am.
Right.
Dealing with the parents issue, mending those relationships, and initiating and ascending to a goddess, which I just absolutely love. Does this resonate with you at all?
I can't see it that well, but yeah, in general, what you're saying does, definitely.
Well, I'll leave it up for one more second for the viewers. So from here, what tips can you give to guide someone to find their bliss? If someone says, I don't even know what my bliss is, I'm just trying to survive, rent's due, groceries need to be purchased, I don't have time for bliss, what would you say to them?
I would ask them to look for the joy. Just find one thing that brings them joy every day. Start really small, right? So what I'm hearing when you're talking about that is somebody who feels so overwhelmed by life that just feels like one extra chore to do.
Yeah,
right? And the last thing they need is one extra chore to do.
Yeah.
So I had a client a few years ago, and she was in that spot, and she was really frustrated with herself because she couldn't get herself to clean her house, and she would fight with herself all weekend to do it, and she would make herself miserable and fight about it. And so I said to her, okay, what I want you to do is I want you to do something nice for yourself every single day. I want you to do one thing that brings you joy every single day. And I had asked her beforehand what she did have that brought her joy. And fortunately for me, she did actually have a few things and she could list them off. And so, but when I gave her that for homework, she was like, what am I going to do? I don't know. I said, you've already listed for me this and this and this and this. I'm not asking you to do something you can't do. I'm asking you to do, you've already told me what they are, right? I'm also going to say, don't clean your house. Just stop telling yourself you have to clean your house. Stop having that be the rule, right? Because what you're telling me is you're really burnt out and you spend your whole weekend making yourself miserable. Yeah. And then you have even less energy than you had before. And so the problem is that you actually need to spend some time taking care of yourself and being nice to yourself and being joyful. And then you will replenish the energy. And then we can talk about cleaning your house, right? But the first goal is to have fun. The house cleaning is going to have to wait.
And it can.
And it can. And honestly, at the end of our work together, not only was she cleaning her house, she was getting her house ready for sale. She had found another house. Like she was on full on move because she had replenished her energy and she had given herself permission to have joy in her life, right? Right. So we took all that energy that went into nagging and resisting, and we put it into joy, and it exploded exponentially. And she completely transformed her life. And it all started with just being nice and having a joyful moment.
And Meredith, would you agree, or that maybe for some it's joy seems to be elusive, but if you said, find one moment of gratitude, like real gratitude, and it may just be, I have a hot shower, I have 5 minutes in the shower and nobody's bothering me, that's a moment of pure, real gratitude. Doesn't have to be lofty, like I'm glad I'm alive, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So that's why find your bliss can just feel completely overwhelming, right? Yes. So if they cannot give me anything in their life that brings them joy, then we do. We have, okay, so like what makes you smile?
Mm-hmm.
Right? What is it? So maybe it's playing with the dog, throwing the ball for the dog on the beach, right?
Yeah.
But they need to be reminded that they actually enjoy this
Mm-hmm.
in order for it to then become a priority, right?
Right.
Maybe it's that they really like reading,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't allow themselves to read because they have so many other things to do that by the time they get to that point, they're too tired to put any energy into it, right? So, but it is having that, if you can't even tell me what brings you joy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you know you have a problem. So then we have to figure out, like, yes, it doesn't have to be full on orgasm. Like we're talking about like simple little, I have a happy moment here. This makes me smile.
Well, and I've been there. So a couple years ago, I said, where do I find joy again? Where I didn't know. So I've always been one that works backwards.
Mhm.
So what I did was I started to eliminate things that didn't bring me joy.
Excellent.
And
That's
just eliminating those things, like getting my nails done. I hated getting my nails done. Hated it. My arms are long. My feet, it's uncomfortable. I hated it. So now it brings me joy that I don't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So to turn things around and say, okay, I might not be able to find something to make me happy right now, but I can definitely do something that makes me less sad.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a step forward into finding more joy.
Yeah.
And
can I ask why you were getting your nails done if you hated it so?
What's that?
Why were you getting your nails done if you hated it so?
Professional. And societal. I actually had several men say that they didn't think I took care of myself if my nails weren't done.
Okay.
It was always pressure from other people, and I thought that I had to have my nails done to be in the career I was in. All of that. It was total outside pressure. A girlfriend last night I said, let's go get our nails done. I said, nope.
Yeah, that's interesting. I know you said, this is an all women's panel, although all of us have men in our lives. I have a son, so who's going to be 26 in a few months. I do want to go back to that following your bliss from as much of a genderless perspective, maybe, that we could look at, that following your bliss. And I think most of what we've talked about does pertain, other than the hero versus the heroine, that what is it? And I look at somebody like my son and my daughter-in-law who, didn't matter that they were honor students or whatever, chose careers completely away from college, very, successful in the life they want to live. I would say they're following their bliss, and it doesn't look like what I would have planned out, the old me would have planned out, right, for them. And I'm thinking more about that in terms of coming back to what can we learn in our, different ages that we are from some of these younger people, and Amey, you're learning from your kids probably still every day, that they're just going, well, wait, I want something different. And yeah, that can be hard as a parent, right? But you got to feel good about that they're really figuring out that, what do I want? What do I want? And what does it feel like? And not in a way of I'm entitled to it,
Yeah.
In Jack and Grace's, they work hard, but they boy, I'm just sitting here going, wow, okay. They're just, they're changing career, just doing different things. And so following your bliss isn't it freedom? I mean, following your bliss is giving yourself permission to be free, whether it's free from somebody else's expectations, societal, familial, romantic. It's freedom. It's freedom to go, okay. And yes, I know we all have to, have a shelter. We need food, water, shelter, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We need those basic needs met. And I get it. In this society, that means money. However, there's creative ways to do that. And I'm seeing more and more people, including myself, that have multiple income streams. It's no longer I have one job and that's it, right? It's, oh, I can do this, I can do that. for my son to say, hey, Mom, I just, you showed me, I didn't believe it. I got to be honest. I didn't believe about, we didn't use manifesting that word back then, but that's essentially what he's talking about. He goes, I just put it out there and I got, this. It was a side hustle and using, all this experience he had. But the excitement I'm feeling is that following your bliss, regardless of age, gender, race, class, really comes back to who am I and what do I really want deep inside? And that comes back to taking that moment to learn about yourself. So I bring in, the healing journey, if that's required. I bring in the journey into self. What is it? What resonates with me? What resonates with me? Because when something resonates with you, doesn't that bring a smile to your face?
Yeah.
What somebody else says. I know I've smiled tonight based on something has been said here, and it resonated, and I went, yeah, that's how I feel, right? So the more we can share with others in a collective way, I feel you. That resonates with me. Isn't that blissful too? Just that getting to know yourself through others and through of course, that journey inward. So I feel like,
I think that's key, is that a lot of people don't want to know themselves. And you kind of have to ask those questions. You have to say, we were talking backstage about me doing just that, asking the questions and seeing where things lead. Saying, what do I want for my future? What are my dreams, and can I chase them?
Yes.
I want to say too, we have a thumbs up from a Facebook user at 4:40. I can't see who it is because it's
I can't either.
But I did want to say, we see you. We see your
thumbs
up.
Well, thank
I
you.
couldn't add it, but where'd it go?
Yep.
There we go.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things with sometimes the live, I'm with you. I don't notice as much if I'm trying to do it. I'm into kind of what we're talking about and looking at you, and so thank you, Meredith, for noticing that. And really,
I just want to add one point that kind of came up when all of you guys were saying everything, which I resonate with. But I think kind of remembering and almost maybe retraining ourselves with the idea that I'm allowed to seek bliss, or it's okay for me to feel joy. I think like Meredith's story of a woman who forced herself to clean her house, it's almost like you feel like you have to earn those happy moments, right? Like I can't go and have fun until my chores are done, right? So this is something that we learned, from our parents as kids, eat your dinner, then you can have dessert. So it's almost ingrained with us that it's not okay to seek the bliss first. We have to do the hard work and earn it. But like Meredith was saying, once her client realized she could get in a joyful state, and then cleaning her house is easy. Like when you're in that state of being, you're not bothered by those messes and those little things. You're going, you're in the zone. So to realize that it's not something that you have to earn. And that word entitlement, you kind of said, well, there's not an entitlement thing, but I think in a way that word has gotten a bad rap because we see it as people who feel like they deserve stuff without doing or working. And we know you're never just going to sit there and get. But to feel entitled to joy and bliss, and that's your connection to who you are and your purpose. So absolutely feel entitled to that.
Well, thank you for clarifying. Yeah, thank you. I love that. because that is a wonderful use of entitlement. I am entitled.
I love that.
Yeah, right. And
Yes,
not making it something that is on the back burner, because that's what happens, right? We're so busy. We have so much to do. It's like, oh, I'll go for a walk after I finish this chore and that chore and this chore. And then you just burn out, right? You're trying to offer energy that you don't have anymore. So honoring that, going for those joyful moments and following the bliss, it's going to fill you back up, and then you can give way more than you ever could have without it.
Yeah,
exactly.
We have Susan DeFalco, who
What's up, Susan? Hello.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your input.
Yeah, she was really resonating with what you were saying, Amy. So I wanted to highlight that too.
Susan is good people. Yeah, and I have to say, Amy, you taught me that like 2 years ago and changed my life. That just my existence made me worthy of joy.
Yes.
Changed everything for me. I mean, again, coming from an evangelical background, everything was contingent on being who they told me to be. And if I wasn't producing, if I wasn't in this way that I was supposed to go, then I wasn't worthy. And I couldn't find a bliss or a joy or anything when I was feeling unworthy.
Right.
So having that entitlement to say, I deserve it just because I'm here, was completely foreign to me, but truly life-changing.
Yeah.
And you bring that up, so then by that, it's part of, following your bliss is finding your worth. I mean, you can say it, right? I am worthy. I am deserving. It's feeling it and believing. That's an inward journey.
For sure.
That is an inward journey, and a sometimes difficult journey. It really is.
Sometimes?
I would say oftentimes a difficult journey, because it is facing your biggest fears. I feel as human beings, am I lovable? Am I worthy? And that means that I come back to that going inward, and because I do believe, yes, we are all worthy, all deserving, just for being.
Even if someone tells us otherwise.
Right? But to truly believe that inside, that's a journey.
It is.
That is a journey. And it can be also a blissful one, because the peace that comes with those moments of, whether it be healing, understanding yourself, understanding your whys. Sherry, you mentioned you like the whys, figuring out those whys, acceptance, of it, that, whatever the compassion for self, that gets you to a blissful, peaceful place, even deep inside some of those harder journeys. So, following your bliss, inward, outward, all around you, is going to include, it's going to be that, the
roller coaster,
right? It's going to include that. Yeah. But it's worth it. It is worth it. It is so worth it.
So I have one challenging question, and we're at the top of the hour, but take your time if you need to. What if following your bliss hurts someone else? How does that happen in life, and how would you deal with those situations? If someone says, this makes me happy, fuck you, and it hurts someone else, where does following your bliss lie in that?
I'm going to say those are two very separate questions, because if you follow your bliss, you're almost guaranteed to hurt someone else.
Oh, wow.
Because it's going to be putting your own needs first. And if you have been someone who has been putting other people's needs first, then when you switch to putting your needs first, they're going to feel hurt in some way, in all likelihood. There's going to be some kind of a shift, because that's the system and you've changed the system.
Okay.
Saying, I'm following my bliss and fuck you, that's like guaranteed to hurt their feelings, right? So
Right?
Here's a way to,
that is the
mm-hmm.
the bad way to announce you're getting a divorce. So,
I don't know. I think that could actually be a great way.
not that you don't want to hurt people, right? So
Yeah,
if the
of course.
goal
Yeah.
is to do it in the kindest, most loving way possible,
Mm-hmm.
It's recognizing that your needs matter too. So if you don't follow your bliss, you are hurting yourself. And if you do follow your bliss, you may hurt someone else,
Mm-hmm.
but you will be true to yourself, right? So if you think of it as choosing between either I'm going to hurt myself and betray my needs, which I've already been doing, and I'm going to continue to sacrifice myself for their needs, or I'm going to honor my needs and I'm going to take care of myself, then it's really a question then of, am I going to do this and love and support myself, or am I going to do this because I need to love and support them more right now? And sometimes you do have to sacrifice your needs, right? Because you can have someone that you love that is going through something terrible and you need to be there for them. Or you can have children that are vulnerable and they need you, right? And it means making a certain sacrifice during that time. And you can still have great joy having those children too. This isn't something where you put in the sacrifice, it's a sacrifice and there's no reward, right? I mean, you can fully enjoy it, but you're also sacrificing some level of individuality during that process, right? It is a both and.
Like in the caretakers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you get to follow your bliss and recognize that it could cause someone pain. And that if you're questioning whether you should follow your bliss, you're not doing it, you're probably already in a bit of pain yourself.
Wow, that's heavy. I like it though.
Thank you.
I kind of feel like it's a little bit like you were saying earlier about, you know, how difficult certain things are when you're in them, but in hindsight, you can see the benefit and the value of having gone through it. So, like, I can give you an example of I had an employee at one point, and in order to follow my bliss, they could not be my employee anymore. I had to let them go. And it was really difficult because it was very, you know, they didn't take it well. It wasn't something that, you know, it hurt them. But months later, I heard from someone else that they said that was actually the best thing that could have happened to them because they didn't realize how unhappy they were. And once they went and did something else and had more freedom, they felt better. So sometimes those kind of, you know, those things that are calling us, we feel, oh, I can't do that because this person isn't going to come with me, and that's not okay. But ultimately, if we follow that, often that person is freed up to follow something that maybe they were ignoring, right? So I think those things that kind of call us and that are, you know, our bliss, when we ignore it, we think we're doing it at the benefit of somebody else, but ultimately we may be restricting that person as well without really even realizing it. So yeah, following your bliss doesn't mean everybody is going to be 100% happy all the time, but you can't control, like I found this out with my kids. I can try to the best of my ability to set things up in a way that I think is going to be wonderful for everybody. And it's not. Somebody has a tantrum or somebody loses their. So, I mean, they have taught me so much about letting go of, you know, trying to make anybody else happy. You know, you can be a kind person. You can do your best to be nice with your actions and things like that. but you don't know how somebody else is ever going to react, and you can never control how somebody's going to feel. So to not follow your bliss because you don't want to, get the waves going, I think in the long run, you're not just hurting yourself, you're probably hurting them too.
I like that.
Well said. Yeah.
Well, we are at the top of the hour. This was a phenomenal show. Thank you so very much. And I do want to say, I don't want to end this show thinking that I was bad-mouthing children, because in my opinion, children are our greatest teachers if you just let them. So I did want to put that out there. I wasn't child bashing. I wasn't man bashing, just looking at the challenges in everybody's lives.
Yes.
Amey, thank you so much for joining us. What are your final thoughts, and where can people find you?
My final thoughts are, I think just keep it as simple as possible. Sometimes it might feel overwhelming, especially if you're just in a stage where you feel like you're surviving. Well, I think, like Meredith was saying, focus on one thing a day. Find something that helps you to feel joy, and then see if you can get some momentum going on that. And just trust yourself. People tend to not do that, and I think it's important. You can find me on Facebook. I have a website for my book, which is amyaubry.card.co. So I'm here, there, and everywhere.
And your book is available on Amazon,
Yeah.
Moments Along the Way. I'm biased. I helped her with the editing, but this book is phenomenal. You want a weekend read on the couch or on the beach, go buy it.
And it's actually very much about following your bliss. So
it is. It is. Thank you so much, Amey.
Thank you.
Meredith, final words, and where can people find you?
Final words are hard, I have to say. So I don't know that I have final words, because I feel like I've already said all that I wanted to say over the course of this very rich discussion. So my final words are just thank you to all of you. I'm very grateful to have been a part of this discussion, and it's been part of my bliss for today to be here with all of you and having this really rich discussion. This has been really fabulous, and I have learned from each of you. So I've learned from you, Amey. I'm really glad to meet you. I've learned from Sherry. I've learned from Beth. Like, all of this is lovely, and I just want to keep having really rich discussions like this. In terms of where to find me, you can find me on Facebook at Living Your Best Life at Midlife and Beyond. I have a Facebook group. You can find me Meredith Richardson, the Midlife Coach, or meredithlrichardson.com. And I do hypnotherapy and coaching to help people to live their best lives. So people that are struggling, that want to change that negative voice in their head to a positive voice, hypnotherapy can help with that.
Well, the feelings are definitely mutual, Meredith. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Beth, any final thoughts? And
I think that really everyone said everything in such a wonderful way. It's really, I agree. It's been such a rich discussion. Following your bliss is centering on self. It's not self-centered.
Ooh, what a great way. Oh my God, I love that.
End with that. And I think it's down on there where you can find me, everydaypeaceandpurpose.com. So there you go.
Fantastic.
Center on self. There you go.
Thanks so much, ladies. I'm going to send you backstage. Stay there. I want to talk to you afterwards.
All right.
Great. Thank you.
As I've said before, this show is my bliss. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for joining the conversation. And in the comments, tell me what you do to find your bliss. What are you doing to find joy in your life every day? If you've not, do it. So we've reached the end. Oh, wait, let me see. Lots of good vibes and fantastic shows. Thank you all so much. And as always, No matter what happens, no matter what you do, I will see you next week, and walk in love. Bye-bye. Mwah!